So in our top story, supporters and detractors of President Jacob Zuma have descended on Luthuli House as the president faces increased pressure to leave office before his term finishes in 2019. ANC leaders are holding an emergency meeting today after meeting President Zuma last night. Black First, Land First have organised a protest in support of the president under the banner Hands Off Zuma. But another group of ANC supporters have also gathered with signs reading Zuma must fall. They say they'll protect Luthuli House. The ANC says it did not receive any formal notification of planned marches to its headquarters. Spokesperson Kusela Sangoni says despite not being notified, the party's leadership will avail someone to receive the memorandum of demands. Sangoni denied that the party was in trouble.
So you say that the ANC is not in crisis, but just looking at what's happening outside Luthuli House, for instance, it would seem that the ANC is in crisis. And these people who are marching to Luthuli House make the argument that some of them are also ANC members.
There's absolutely no crisis. I think we must reiterate that point. We are, as the ANC, dealing with challenges that we have always spoken about. We are dealing with issues of unity, of bringing together what at some point were warring factions within the African National Congress. We went to a very successful 54th National Congress where the members of the ANC gave a very clear directive to the leadership that you will work together in the interests of the ANC and the people of South Africa, most importantly. So when you see differing views on an issue like what is happening today, we don't see that as a crisis. We believe that it's part of the robust engagement that has always defined the African National Congress. At the end of it, once all these engagements, which are part and parcel of the ANC culture, have concluded, there will be a very clear way forward in terms of how we continue to do what President Ramaphosa has called us to do, renewing the organization, fundamental organizational renewal, and uniting all of us in order to be able to create jobs for our people.
Looking at some of the comments that have been made, especially by the Secretary General of the ANC in terms of the leadership of the party, how do you then say that there is no crisis when he makes the argument and he says that let's not forget that this leadership is only there for 5 years, and after 5 years will return the ANC to its former glory, meaning that the current leadership does not have the capability to bring the ANC to its former glory?
Aldrin, let's not assume that we know what the Secretary General meant when he made that comment. I understand that he has obviously also unpacked it further to the leadership of the ANC. However, it would be very wrong of us to speculate what it could have meant. We do know that African National Congress, the leadership at national level, is elected for a period of 5 years. Whether then that spoke to differences between the leadership or not is something that all of us would not know at this point.
So we cross live to Luthuli House. Our reporter Aldrin Sampear is there. Aldrin, earlier you told us that those who wanted to protect Luthuli House, they said, were there, but you were waiting for protesters who are from the BLF and other organizations. What's happening?
Well, as it stands at the moment, not much has changed since we spoke earlier on. The BLF members have still not marched to Luthuli House, and on the other hand, you still have these members and supporters of the ANC who are saying that they're here to protect the ANC. But one has to say that the numbers are quite disappointing, especially for those who've been organizing this event, although they are downplaying it, considering that you only have these few members of the ANC who said that they'll come out and defend the ANC. One should not forget that the ANC has plus 700,000 members of the party, and yet it's only these people that have come out to say that they are defending the ANC today as it stands. But the police have also been kept on their toes to ensure that there's no incident. Far on the other end of the street are another group of protesters, and that small group of protesters who are also ANC, some say they're ANC members, those are people who are supporting President Jacob Zuma, although they are not part of the organization of the BLF that said they'll be marching to Luthuli House today.
Right, and what's expected? The National Working Committee inside, just lay out the rest of the day for us.
Well, yes, I just spotted about 2 NWC members who have walked into Luthuli House, and they'll be part, of course, of that NWC meeting that's expected to start. I don't know if it started already, but it was expected to start at 2 o'clock, and they will get a feedback from the ANC's top 6 with regards to the meeting that took place with President Jacob Zuma yesterday. We've also just received confirmation as well that President Jacob Zuma has indeed met with the Zulu King, King Zwelithini, in KwaZulu-Natal. We're trying to see whether we can get what the outcome of that meeting was and what the content and what was on the agenda of that meeting.
And Aldrin, there's so much speculation. Reports that President Jacob Zuma decided not to resign when asked to by members of the top 6. He's holding firm. Do we know anything about what the National Working Committee will be told? What possible options there are now?
Well, yes, that's something, of course, that they need to look into exactly what options do they have available as members of the National Working Committee. And you remember that it was the National Working Committee that instructed the ANC's top 6 to meet with President Jacob Zuma and tell him about this resolution. And that resolution, of course, being a resolution with regards to asking him to submit and resign as president of the ANC. And what we hear from our sources is that, of course, the president hasn't given in. He is refusing to step down. He's asked the question, what is it that I have done? Well, right now we are showing you visuals of the ANC members, those who are saying that they're protecting Luthuli House, who have advanced and make their way through the barrier that was set up by the police officers. They're moving towards the crowd that I told you about earlier on, and that's the crowd that were a crowd of ANC members who say they're ANC members, carrying placards that they support President Jacob Zuma, and they are totally behind the President Jacob Zuma. But it seems again that the police are intervening as it stands at the moment.
All right, thank you very much, Aldrin Sampear. And those supporters that you see there, anti-President Zuma, saying they'll protect Luthuli House from pro-Zuma supporters who said that they would march to Luthuli House, the ANC headquarters. And like Aldrin said, that National Working Committee meeting about to get underway.